Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. Or good afternoon, I should say. Thanks for joining this call. It's Nick Von Schirnding here. I'm chairman of ARC Minerals. And really, I just wanted to say a few introductory comments. Really to say that, when I took over a few months ago, my early observation was that this company was blessed with a myriad of options. And I always like that in companies. They had formerly Alltac had a 20% stake roughly in Casa. It had actually zero equity holding in Zamsort. It had a convertible loan note of 1.2 million, a minority 20% interest in Eritrea and Andiamo, and obviously a controlling stake in Slovakia, which wasn't going anywhere. So my early observations were really that it needed a major revamp in terms of the strategy. It needed new management, and it needed a new board of directors, all of which I think have been executed over the last few months. And when people look back, I think I've always said, measure me by what I say. And I think, I hope anyway, that you as shareholders will appreciate that actually quite a lot has been done. Firstly, we now own almost 100% of Casa, which is a first-rate gold deposit in South Kivu in the DRC. We've done a lot of drilling work there, and we are going to update the market on the new resource that we hope to report on. As obviously you've seen earlier this week on Zamsort, we've moved to a 49% stake in Zamsort. We are now the largest shareholder there. I think this is an outstanding deal. We had a lot of interest, a lot of competitive interest in acquiring the stake, and we've merged, I think, with a real game changer for ARC going forward, and I'll come back to that. We have optionality to increase our stake there, as outlined by the agreement or by the announcement, and we hope to report back on that as well. We are not going to sit here as a minority shareholder, and so watch this space. On Eritrea and Slovakia, we have said that those are non-core assets. We are in discussions with a number of interested parties, and in due course we'll be reporting back on that as well. Turning to Zamsort, I mean, this, in my view, is one of the most outstanding cobalt opportunities, I should say, in Zambia. I mean, since acquiring this, and in fact just before, as word got round that we were in quite advanced discussions, we have had a number of approaches, I mean, both by private equity groups and by a number of very large mining groups. You'll appreciate, obviously can't say anything more than that, but it, I think, underscores that what we have here is an extremely valuable asset. It is principally around the exploration opportunity, and I need hardly tell all of you that we have, as our neighbours, First Quantum, with two very large mines, copper and nickel, and we have Barrick as well. We think that the last domes region in the northwest there remains one of the most outstanding opportunities available, and you can expect us to get drilling very soon. We also have a pilot plant, a commercial scale pilot plant, which we are now bring into final production or operation over the next few months for a relatively modest sum of under $500,000, and that will produce some revenue for us going forward. And again, I can't say how much yet, but we are working and will update all of you on that as soon as we have more detail. But an exploration company with some revenue, with a small plant, operational plant, I think is a plus. But the big winner for us, of course, remains the exploration opportunity. Now, you've seen that we've raised a fairly significant sum of money, around $3.5 million. We will obviously, maintaining shareholder value, we will spend that very cautiously. I think you will appreciate that I'm a conservative person. We are not going to go out and do stuff that we don't need to do, and we're a micro-cap stock, but aiming to get to much, much bigger. And to do that, we need to spend money wisely, and we will be doing that. I can assure you of that. We also have a number of options in terms of funding. We obviously have an existing stockpile, which we could utilize to fund either exploration and or the plant. We could also do a little bit of mining on the small-scale mining license relatively easily. I was out there last week at site, and so that remains an opportunity. And lastly, as I say, we have had some approaches by potential JV partners, but I'm not in a hurry to involve them at this stage. We need to do our own work, and we need to get drilling and to see what's there, and to ideally get a JORC resource, certainly by the end of this year. So look, with that, I'd like to open up to questions. Very happy to answer any operator.
Okay, so just a reminder then for people on the call, if you want to ask a question, just #1 on your phone, and you can ask.
Hi, Nick. It's Gaj here.
Hi, can you hear me okay? Joel Beaton, I'm a small private investor, been invested in Orthodox originally. Congratulations on the deal. Really, really happy that you've been able to do that. Also very impressed that you were able to raise money at a premium to the last placing. My first question would be around AIM Rule 14. Landsville, another company, recently got hit with reverse takeover. So are you in sort of discussion to try, presumably to try and avoid the transaction being considered an RTO if you go over the 50% threshold?
Yes, we have. We have been in discussions with AIM regulation on that, and we are clear.
Okay, brilliant. And I guess the other question would be, obviously you said you're hoping to do drilling going forward. Do you have any idea of what sort of time frame we might be able to start to see some results from any sort of drilling campaign of some sort?
Yes. Look, we are wrapping up the discussions with a number of potential drilling parties, and the short answer is as soon as possible. So we're in the dry season in Zambia, as you know, and so we'll be starting hopefully within the next 2 months. Well, certainly we'll be hopefully reporting results within the next 2 months. We're hoping to get started over the next few weeks.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
And we're pretty clear about where we want to drill near term. So obviously Calibre remains the most immediate opportunity, but there are one or two other very interesting areas that we're going to look at in terms of our drilling program as well. I mean, we have gathered around us quite a lot of historical data. We have hired a very good consultant who knows that part of the Kabomba Domes region, and we had an all-day session working through exactly where we should start drilling. So I'm quite comfortable that we have identified near term the right target.
Just a quick one. If you're not speaking, could you please not be off mute, because otherwise we get a lot of background noise. Just off the back of that question then, Nick, do you have any information yet about how many sort of holes you're planning to drill, how long that campaign would last, before you had the sort of results that you're looking for?
Look, it's premature because we're still working that through with the drillers and availability of rigs and so on. But it'll certainly be around 10,000 meters RC, and probably about 5,000 meters diamond drilling. And whether we have 2 or 3 rigs, I mean that's a matter of detail now that we're going through with the drillers. I might add that we're also trying to work out the best possible credit terms for us, again to preserve cash, and we're looking to sort of try achieve something like 90 days credit.
And I mean, I know that you said a minute ago about potential JV partners. You've had interest. Do you envisage that you go through the drilling process, you start getting some results back, it's looking interesting, and that's when those sort of talks would sort of commence?
Look, potentially. I mean, I guess everything has a price, so we'll have to see. I think at the moment we don't have anything, right? We don't have a JORC resource even. So I think any major coming to look at us, would see that as not particularly enticing, although potentially a sort of a lowball offer coming in, and we're not interested in that. So I think we want to prove up at least to get to a maiden resource, and then we'll see. I mean, there have been many examples, as I'm sure you know, that where companies have got to a size where certain majors couldn't help themselves, and obviously that's the sort of position we want to get to. If not, we can look at other options and potentially start looking at developing an operation ourselves. But I think it's more likely, frankly, that we will roll in with a JV partner at some stage in the future. But at the moment, it's really sort of get the thing up to a level where it sort of appears on the radar screen.
Yeah. I mean, I think the sort of the last question from me then, in terms of, I mean, obviously it's copper cobalt asset. What do you see the focal point of the resource then? Like 50-50 copper cobalt, or more cobalt, or what's the bread and butter really? Well,
look, it's difficult to say. I mean, I think you're looking probably at maybe a sort of 10-to-1 ratio between copper cobalt. But this is obviously key to the drilling program. And obviously from a dollar point of view, as you know, that's almost well north of 12 times at the moment in terms of the price of where cobalt is versus copper. So, in some respects, some have said, we may be sitting on a cobalt project. But let's see. I don't want to overpromise, and let's see what the results come out. I mean, we were on site. I mean, we were using XRF on some of the sort of surface material, that showed, between 3 and 5% cobalt in one of the hits. But again, look, these are one-offs. But we know cobalt is there, we know copper is there, and it just remains to be seen as to what we bring out in terms of exploration results.
Excellent. Okay. If anyone else wants to ask a question, #1 on your phone.
Nick,
hi,
you go to the hit?
I've just got a quick question regarding JORC resource. What kind of time frames are you looking at?
Sorry, what kind of what?
Timelines.
I would say by the end of the year, or before the end of the year.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Nick. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I've got a question, which is more focused really around the plant at Zamsort. Now, there's old literature on the plant suggesting we could produce 300 tons of copper and 50 tons of cobalt per month. Now, obviously, those figures may or may not come to fruition. But with the current plans with the plants, are we going to build out the pilot plants up to the potential to be able to get up to those kind of production rates, or is it going to be like a two-phase program to build out the pilot plants, or
Look, it's a good question. So the strategy has, I mean, this is before I was there, and this is no criticism of Ortac, because actually Ortac had no say in the running of Zamsort prior to this. But so the Zamsort management, to be frank, was grossly incompetent, and I don't think had any clue about building a plant. It wouldn't be the way I would go about doing things, but anyway, this little pilot plant, I mean, it's not so little, it's just what I call a commercial scale pilot plant, has been constructed. I mean, it's probably 80%, 75% complete. So we're sitting with it. The debate is, whether we develop to completion, and I think, we've had two separate independent consultancies look at this, and they have both concluded that actually with a relatively modest investment of under $500,000, we can get it into production. It is small. I mean, it's between 15 and 20 tons an hour. Whether we could ramp it up further, I mean, again, I'm not going to put my head in the block and give you any commitment around that. So I think you're right. I think it's probably a two-phase approach. I think, let's see with this modest investment that we can get it up and running. We've got an outstanding technical team on site at the moment that have already started work. And I think if we find that it goes swimmingly and we can ramp up some extra capacity through it, and then it makes a huge amount of commercial sense, then we'll do that. But I'm very averse, having been, I've worked with Anglo American for over 25 years. I've seen many plants with much better technical input than we have fail or require huge investment, further investment. And so I want to be assured that this pilot plant on a very modest basis can wash its face. And if that works, then we can look to potentially further increase investment there. But I don't want to throw good money after bad.
No, quite right. I agree. And with regards to the drilling program, which we're hopefully going to start on Zamsort very shortly, obviously, the guys at Zamsort have in-house estimations, which presumably is based on whatever drilling they've undertaken over the past so many years. Are you basically going to be twinning the drilling with their results to give you greater confidence in what data you have got to hand at the moment?
No, we won't.
No. So the additional drilling will, in essence, will that be expanding the resource size, or is it just for a confidence point of view?
Look, it's clearly going to increase because we don't have a JORC resource, but it's clearly going to increase it. But
of course, yeah.
I mean, it will of course give us greater confidence. But you've got to go start the drilling and see where we end up. So I think it's both.
Right. So,
Nick,
just so I'm clear from an investor point of view. So, obviously, following the announcements over the past few days, you've raised money, and obviously, so what's included in the budget for that money? So, obviously, some of it will be going off to CASA, some of it will be spent on the plants. Kind of, how long are we going to be funded for?
A good question. Well, I've mentioned the budget for the plant of about $500,000.
Yeah.
I mean, the near-term drilling program, I guess, we'll be looking at $1 to $1.5 million, but that's again subject to what we agree with our final company drilling subcontractor that we sign up with. We are scaling back our investment at CASA. When we started that 5,000 meter program, I was very clear with the board that we needed to see where we end up with the resource. And if we end up at or close to 2 million ounces, the question then is it a game changer whether we move from 2 to 2.5 or 3 million ounces, or does it not make actually much of a difference at the end of the day? And I'm more inclined with the latter view. And so I think you'll see us, we'll be continuing to do some modest exploration work at CASA, because we think there are still some quite interesting targets that we should identify or we should prove up. But really, I think we'd be moving ideally towards something like a sort of pre-feasibility or scoping study at CASA and reducing the capex there. So, but that's premature to sort of definitively say how much we're going to spend. But I will update you, as and when we have the updated resource figures back. And then lastly, I would say, we do have options on the ground, and we haven't again worked through whether it makes sense to sell the stockpile outright. I mean, we could potentially get, well north of $1 million just for that little stockpile we have. We could mine a bit and sell that. this is near surface stuff, but equally we may want to keep some for the plant. So, that it's difficult to say at this stage, but we certainly have options there to stretch out this budget over the next few months.
Sure. With regards to CASA, obviously a lot of people consider DRC quite a risky place to do business. What are the attitudes of the major miners in the area, in the DRC? What are we in good stead to? Obviously, we're not going to go ahead and develop CASA on our own, are we? Because it'd be too much dilution really for shareholders, considering the base we're at the moment. So, I was just wondering on your thoughts of, how we can go on to that next phase with that, or maybe, would we be looking at possibly, I don't know, selling up CASA once we've got to a particular size of resource?
Sure. Look, I think CASA is an excellent resource, and at the end of the day, you've got to go where the minerals lie, and yes, the DRC has issues, but equally, groups as big as Glencore operate there perfectly well. We have had expressions of interest when I was back at Indaba in Cape Town. Two major mining groups expressed an interest whether possibly we could look at some sort of JV with them there. Getting ounces like this is not that easy for some of these gold companies that have, ratcheted back on exploration and suddenly realize that they don't have anything in the back box. So that a significant resource like that could be of interest to various mining groups. We've had one expression of interest from a Chinese group that have said, if you guys get to sort of between 2 and 3 million ounces, that's the sort of size and scale that we'd be very interested in. So I think for those that have the ambition to operate in the DRC, and there are many successful companies that operate there, this is a good asset, and I think we want to keep that alive and keep the interest alive. And look, I'm a huge believer in value creation, and I'm happy to frankly look at all kinds of options if we don't achieve value with CASA in terms of the current structure. Does it make more sense to potentially spin it out? I don't know. Those are things we will look at, but we're not going to sit around here with a portfolio that drags in my view, the key asset, which the prized asset, which is copper, cobalt, and Zambia.
Yeah, I agree with all those points as well. So I'd just like to take this opportunity to congratulate you on the Zamsort deal. Personally, I was invested in Auta primarily because of the Zamsort project, so I'm quite happy that you've taken the opportunity to increase the exposure to that project. So thank you.
Good. Well, thank you. Thank you for the support.
Nick, Nick, prior to moving back to Zamsort, just to say, I think that the market probably won't give much recognition to CASA until you get that 2 million ounce stage, because then, as you say, it's more attractive. Could you, and I think obviously Zamsort is the main, the main course here, but potentially when there's more eyes on the story, then I think, potentially people might pay attention to CASA. I'm just wondering on CASA, when's the resource upgrade likely to be? Is it in the near future?
Look, thank you. Yes, the answer is, we have two, potential company makers in their own right in the form of CASA and Zamsort. So, I'm very positive on CASA. My only point in the last question was, we need to make sure that we derive maximum value in the way we hold these assets, and whether it makes more sense to look at different structures if needs be. But if we can develop both, potentially, yes, fine. So look, I know we've been talking about this upgraded resource. At the end of the day, it's actually not an overly simplified exercise. I am glad to say we're coming to the end of that process now. So I would certainly hope, and I'll be, obviously talking to our technical teams as I do, daily. But I would hope that what are we now, mid-May, by certainly early June or thereabouts, we can report back on the upgraded resource at Casa.
Thank you, Nick. So I did note that you the recent raise that management took part in this one. How much have you invested in this round and in total in the company?
Well, so on this round, I put in £100,000 worth of new shares. I have a historical holding which I've also acquired, through cash, and this obviously excludes my options. Look, I truly believe, this is a very big opportunity that ARC shareholders are sitting on. And to be frank, when I see some share price weakness, I will be out there buying myself. I have bought further shares in the market today, which we will announce. So you can rest assured I am very committed to this.
Thank you, Nick.
Hi, Nick. It's me again. Just with regard to the non-core assets, presumably you'll be looking to divest those. Have you had
Correct.
any talks with anybody? Are we talking to anybody at the moment, or?
Yeah, we are. So both on Andiama and Slovakia, we are in discussions. But other than that, I obviously, without getting into disclosure territory, I can't say any more than that. But yes, we are.
So could we hopefully hear about some potential outcomes? Is it going to be like another year, or is it,
I certainly hope not.
No.
No, look, I'm in a hurry. You can see how much I've done in 6 months since taking over as chairman. So rest assured, we're not going to sit on a portfolio earning no return for us. So we'll move as quickly as we can without, obviously, destroying value in the process. I mean, if it makes more sense to sit on it for another 3-4 months, we'll do that. But rest assured, we're rattling the cage pretty hard, and we've had some interest, which is good.
Okay. So are we looking to fully divest those, or would it be?
Correct.
Yeah. Will we be looking to fully divest those, or would it
Yes.
be? Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that's correct. So really, I think we need to clean up the portfolio and really focus on our two key assets, which are Zamsort and Casa.
Right. Well, that's one of the big problems that Autark did have in the past, and that is a lack of focus and a lack of control about the assets and the direction. Obviously, Sturex, for example, that was largely down to the local people rejecting and not understanding the project. So I'd imagine it'd probably be more of a locally connected company, which might help that on. So, okay.
No, I agree. And my mantra is, what you understand, you value. If people don't understand what you're doing, they don't value it. It takes time. It takes time to turn around perceptions. I looked at some of the share chat this morning. The naysayers out there, good luck to them. But we will deliver. My previous role, I ran a FTSE 120 company. I executed on a deal that got $450 million back to shareholders. Every single shareholder, including the very large institutions in the UK and the US, said it was impossible and I'd never do that. And we did it. So, again, I say, measure me by my actions.
Appreciate your thoughts. Thank you.
Hi, Nick. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
My name's Terry Rouse, and I've just got a couple of quick questions for you. I've heard what you're doing, and I like what you're doing. The plant at Zamsort makes great sense for me because it means we can effectively tread water for a while and not get bullied in negotiations. But when you mentioned you were in a hurry, what are your plans after Zamsort and Qatar?
Well, look, those are two pretty big cherries to bite off. So, no, look, I'm in a hurry to really, I guess, clean up the sort of historical legacy issues and really to get rid of the non-core assets, focus on the core assets, get those into shape. And by shape, I mean, where each has a meaningful resource that we could potentially look to JV or look to sell or look to develop. And that obviously will take longer because, we've probably got at least a year's, 18 months worth of drilling at Zamsort ahead of us. But, look, the ground that we're drilling there is, relatively shallow. I think the results, I expect, some fairly frequent news flow on those results. We're not having to send assays off to Tanzania as we are in the DRC, which takes time. We have assay labs in the country in Lusaka. So we'll be updating with regular news flow. To be honest with you, it's premature, I think, to talk about sort of beyond Zamsort and Casa. But rest assured, I mean, when we get there, we're not going to sit still with just what we have. I believe in growing this company, growing value for our shareholders. It must be value accretive, whatever we do. I'm absolutely value driven. So, and if it makes more sense to simply have the group as a twin-focused DRC Zambia asset, that's fine. If it makes more sense to have it as a focused DRC vehicle and a focused Zambia vehicle, that also could make sense. So, I'm open to all options in terms of driving value. And beyond that, we'll have to see. But look, we're at least a year away from that. So let's just get these two things under our belt.
Good. Right. Thank you very much.
Nick, another question from me. Focusing on Zamsort. I noticed that in Kalaba, seven of the targets are in the top 10, which I'm finding very exciting given what happened with, I think it's Kalambila, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know, I don't know the history too much, but I know Anglo defined that list and those targets. Do you think the reason things weren't progressed further back on the asset were because of the economic climate at the time? Or some of that attributed to the fact that the Zamsort guys didn't have their house in order and obviously now ARC have come along and, got a good strategy and going to get in there and get things going from, operate a business. What do you think the history is around that and why we are why Zamsort were where they are before ARC have got involved?
Well, look, you're going back in history. Look, I happen to have worked at Anglo during that time. No, look, Anglo's exit out of Zambia was driven by a bigger strategy about diversifying out of Africa, and I think they took a view, rightly or wrongly at the time, that I think with the historic copper belt assets that they had sort of had reached their expiry point, and I don't think were particularly focused in terms of the Northwest. I'm sure retrospectively that wasn't the best decision, but we are where we are. The reason why Zamsort, I think, has not been developed in the same way as, say, Kalambila or Kanchansi or the other assets, the Enterprise and so on, I really sort of bring down to dysfunctionality in terms of the way, dysfunctionality and incompetence, the way Zamsort was run. Dysfunctionality because the shareholders at the time were fighting with each other. They had a flawed strategy and ran out of money, and they just didn't have the management to drive results, to execute. And so we've got rid of that management. We have a first-rate new management team in place now, and I'm very happy with that. So Don McDevitt is the CEO. We've parachuted Chuck Foster, our CFO, to assist with the financial matters there, and we'll make a new appointment of the CFO fairly shortly. We've got Momena Mushinga, who has been really the champion of this project as the chairman of Zamsort. And obviously we have struck the deal with Terra Metals. He's a first-rate person and very obviously well connected with the Zambian infrastructure and knows this asset very well, and in fact founded the asset. And so I think we have a very good team driving this project. We all actually at the end of the day have the same goals in mind, which is really just to get the drilling going, produce the results, and the rest will take care of itself.
Great. Those are the answers I was hoping for. And so therein lies the opportunity for Archem shareholders.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Operator, I think unless there are any more questions, happy to wrap up the call.
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks, Nick. We got quite a few people on in the end, so thanks a lot for the update, and we'll look forward to the upcoming news.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.